brothers met with Pharaoh and they asked us for them to be able to settle there. And we also see where Jacob blesses Pharaoh, I believe, why? You see where the Pharaoh tells Joseph that he has permission to give his family the land. Also, he gives them enough food to survive. Then we pick up this morning in verse 13. 13 through 2. There was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all of the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. And Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they had bought. And Joseph brought the money into the Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all of the Egyptians came into Joseph and said, "Give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth." We see that the famine was very serious, not just in Egypt, but also in Canaan and other surrounding areas. And we see that the people, they are begging Joseph, to sell them grain for food. And once they have taken all the money and they bought the food that they have spent all their money, now they want to know, the people want to know what could be done since they have no money. And they asked Joseph, what should we do? Should we die? I think Joseph had already planned out how this was going to take place. He was going to get their money, and then what was next, that he would collect something else. And we go to verse 16 where it says, and Joseph said, "Give your cattle, and I will give you your cattle if money fails." And they brought the cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses and for the flocks and for the cattle of the herd and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle and for that year. We see that now that he's got all their money. Now, in exchange for their cattle, he's going to give them some more food. And so, he's taking everything they had for an entire year. Now, these verses are as go through there, they're pretty easy to explain. The verses explain for themselves. So if anybody got anything you want to say, just jump right in there.
He was getting them to Egypt before they did when they got their money livestock. They don't have much of a choice, but
well, and we see that when you're hungry, you're gonna do whatever you can to get that food. So they gonna give away everything.
You wonder how weak those that cattle was though, with no food and skinny and probably dying themselves.
And that's what I keep thinking myself. How they survive, and the animals.
They taken all these, didn't have food for themselves, much less the cattle.
Yeah. And then you kind of have to wonder about what was going on around them. It's like today. My wife and I, we fill our freezers full of food. But if our neighbors don't have food and they come and start getting my stuff, what are you gonna do? You gonna share with them, or are you gonna hoard it all? Try to, because that's going on around them. Because people trying to get, yes, sir.
My understanding of when it says what I think it means when it says the money failed and Joseph had to collect it, since all their money was gold coins and since bread was so scarce, what probably happened was like bread was more valuable than gold coins, and so essentially it would be essentially like saying a loaf of bread is like $100. So essentially the money's the whole economy collapsing. That's how desperate things are in Egypt, and so Joseph is trying to stabilize things by picking up all the gold and using like it's like going. So I guess it's like the depression where you brought, you traded with the government directly for breads and
Right.
government.
Really, the gold and the money really wasn't worth anything.
Yeah, because money was worth it, they had the depression, so you had to go direct to the government.
Well, it's kind of like that, we kind of rely on the government, for a lot of different things, a lot of, the charity organizations, they come from the government. Like, for instance, we got a lot of people that, I think this would be a good example, food stamps. They count on the government.
It's hard for us to relate to something like this, because, I mean, when I was growing up, it wasn't always what I wanted to eat. I might go hungry because I didn't want to eat what was there, but there was always food in the house. There was a time that I remember that there wasn't some food in the house. There was nothing like you didn't have anything, did you?
But kind of when we was growing up and probably since the depression, people, they put up food, they got out there and they work and they raised their food. I'm worried about my grandchildren today. I don't know if they would even know how to work a garden or how to,
We had two choices, either or do a thing.
yeah. Right. Verse 18. It says, when that year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord, how that our money is spent. My Lord also has our herd of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our land. Wherefore shall we die before their eyes, both we and our land, buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed, that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolated. Now we see he's done got their money, he's done got their livestock, now he's fixing to get their land. He's gonna get everything,
And them.
and then, okay.
They'd probably come out better being a servant in Pharaoh's area than they would be at home without anything.
Well, that's right. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they got to the point now where they don't have a choice. Either they gonna survive by being a bond servant, or they gonna die. Anyone? All right, let's go to verse 20, 21. Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field. But the famine prevailed over them, so the land became Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he removed them to the cities, from one end of the border of Egypt even to the other end thereof. Well, we see here that the land became Pharaoh's, and the people became slaves or bondservants. We see that Pharaoh becomes more powerful because he owns everything. Whatever he says, that's what people are going to do. But their lives did not really change. Why did their lives not change? Well, they were surviving because of when there was 7 years of plenty, Joseph collected the food for being prepared for the 7 years when it wasn't. And where did he put the food? In the cities. Why would you reckon he put all the food in the city? It was easier to handle the food if it was all in one place there. And easier to protect it because if people they're gonna get the food if they had to steal it, if they could. So they could guard it. Did Joseph handle all this stuff himself? There's no way he could. There's too many people. So he had to have people under him who was out there managing things. And they probably had people managing things and controlling everything.
He's sort of second in charge in Egypt, but
He was second in charge, yeah.
Man,
Today, we have the food pantry in Oxford,
Yeah.
people, and they sign up and they can get. But at least they don't have to become a servant or sell anything they have. Have food.
That's right. I was just thinking myself, you know, that is so, we are so blessed in so many ways, you know, we don't even know. How we have things in place, you know, like I said, alerted to the food stamps, you know. I think probably, we lucky that we have programs, people that would, give, people things now, the churches and everything. And the food pantry, don't you have different churches that work in there because, you know, people would, go around one church and get stuff, they go to another church and get stuff. So that it's all one place there, it's kind of like the city there, that's all in one place that, so people not getting more than they
And
need
it's in the city,
in the city.
location where everybody can come to.
I visited my sister recently and I said, well, I don't know if it gets that bad. I said, but I know where I'm coming because our husband has been buying in 25-year buckets of food, you know, folks last 25, 30 years. He built a room in his house. He's got lots of bullets and lots of food. I said, but if it gets bad enough, I know where I'm coming.
But that's starting, I see that every time on TV. I say, you know, we need to think about that. And then she said, I don't have a place to put it. I don't get rid of very many things.
Might need it tomorrow, might you?
That's right. I'm gonna tell you, when I was growing up, you know, we didn't have a lot of, I mean, we were poor, my mother can tell you that, you know, but, you know, we didn't throw away anything, and we was always looking for something to use, you know. Yeah, I hoard things, pretty much now. All right, let's go to verse, 22. It says, on the land of the priests brought he not, for the priests had a portion assigned to them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their land. So it was one exception there, you know, the priest, you know, they was, well taken care of. Pharaoh, you know, he didn't collect, taxes from them, and he, did not, take their land. So if it was one, group, I guess, would just say, they was pretty well taken care of.
Did they really have any land? I mean,
Uh,
they were allowed to.
they were allowed, yeah, to stay, yeah. But they, I guess you say that they was pretty well, taken care of. And this was a religion of the, government, it wasn't, stand, it was not the priest of God's people. And Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have brought you this day in your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall, come to pass in the increase that ye shall give the fifth part unto Pharaoh, and the fourth part shall be yours, for seeds of the field, and for your food, for them your household, and for the food for your little ones. We see here that the famine that is, might near over with. They could, they might not know this, but Joseph knew it was about over with because of the revelation he had from God, how long it was gonna last. And so this meant that they needed to prepare the land and, for the crops for the next season. And, So now they're counting on, Pharaoh to, give them seed to, plant the land. And, Orville, I was thinking about you when I was reading this because, you probably know a lot about, sharecropping or people, back in, our days, did a lot of sharecropping. I think, we lived on a 100 acres, we could call Mitchell Place over there. I remember as a kid, you know, we'd go out there and pull corn and we'd throw the corn in, heap piles. If any of y'all have ever gathered corn where you pull corn and you throw it in a pile and later on you come back with a tractor and wagon and you would pick it up. Well, then we'd give every fourth pile to the landowners and we would keep 3 and take 7. But they saying right here that they kept 4 piles and they gave 1 pile to the government. Okay. Or 20% back to the government, which is not a lot. We probably pay more taxes than that now, more than 20%. To the government, if you think about food taxes, tax on cars. So
About 70%.
probably so, we play a lot anyway, no.
Well, Chester, I remember when I was growing up, Daddy, of course, he had the farm there, but they would allot you how many acres you could plant in cotton.
I remember.
And Daddy's allotment was not as much as he wanted. He would plant his, and then he would rent some of the neighbors' land over there. And I remember he would give them 1/4 of it.
Yeah.
So, Joseph is doing better than,
Yeah.
you know,
That's what I'm saying, 20% is a good deal, you know, if you only had to pay back 20% for taxes, that's good. Because like I said, we paid, 25%, I think, back. All right, verse 25 and 26. And they said, "Thou hast saved our lives, let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." And Joseph made it a law over the land of Egypt, and to this day, that Pharaoh should have the 5th part, except the land of the priest only, which because not Pharaoh, became not Pharaoh's. Yeah, the people was happy and grateful the arrangement. They had become, they promised to become bond servants of Pharaoh. They was very much willing to give 20%. And we see that the priests, again, was given a special favors that they didn't have to pay anything. Verse 27. And Israel dwelled in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possession therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly. What do we know about Israel's family?
It was big.
It was big, and then, like you said, that they settled in Goshen. They multiplied, and over the years, we don't really know how many people it was, but it was probably maybe 1 million or more. They was
With all the 12 sons, and they had children, and their children's children had children.
Well, it's there for 100 years, so.
That's
Yeah.
why it was a big threat to the government that they made them work.
yeah, they made them servants. Verse 28. And Joseph lived in the land of Egypt 17 years, so the whole age of Jacob was 147 years. We remembered when 17 years earlier, when Jacob saw Joseph, you know, he was so excited and everything like it. You know, once he saw Joseph for the first time after how many years? So many years. He said he was ready to die. You know, but he lived 17 more years. verse 29. And the time drew nigh that Israel must die. And he called his son Joseph and said unto him, If now I have found grace in thy sight, but I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh, and deal kindly and truly with me, bury me not, I pray thee, in Egypt. Now today, if somebody told you to put your hand on their thigh, it kind of make you step back a little bit or think different about it. But in that time, that was a testament. If you was making a sworn pledge to do this, so I think Jacob knew that he was about to die. He was asking Joseph, to send him back to be not to be buried in Egypt.
We see that a lot of times in our scripture earlier, where that was a tradition, that was where the way they gave the blessing. And it does sound, for us, it sounds strange.
Mhm.
But in those days, it wasn't. It's the way it was done.
Yeah, that custom was a lot different than what I'm sure many think about where you want to be buried. You know, I imagine you can tell me if you want to be buried by your mother and father and wife or your husband. Like then, he knew he did not want to be buried in Egypt. Okay, he wanted to be buried where? Verse 30. It says, But I will lie with my father, and thou shalt carry me out of Egypt, and bury me in the burying place. And he said, I will do this, I will do as thou hast said. So Joseph said, Okay, I'll do this. I'll take you out of Egypt, I'll take you back to where your father was buried, where Abraham and Isaac were buried. And he was buried in where? Was it Canaan? The land that was promised to Jacob. Does anyone know where Jacob was buried? You know, I mean, where Abraham?
Macphail, Hebrew, with Sarah, with
Yeah,
thought to Sarah.
good job. 31. And he said, Swear unto me, and he swore unto him, and Israel bowed himself upon the bed head. So we see that Joseph made the solemn promise which Jacob had requested. We see that Jacob raised himself to sit in position, bowed his head in a grateful act of worshiping towards God. Anybody got any questions? All right, let's go to verse chapter 48. And it came to pass after these things that one told Joseph, Behold, thy father is sick. And he took with him his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. We're not told how long this took place after chapter 47, but we know that Joseph returned home, and he was summoned back to Jacob's bedside. And we don't really know why he took his two sons, but he decided to take them with him. And it was Ephraim and Manasseh, and they was about 20 years of age.
Jacob kind of thought of them two sons of Joseph as his own.
Yeah, but they were grandsons.
his grandson, but he kind of considered him as his own, and he left a lot of him inheritance to him.
Yes. Told in verse 2, and one told Jacob and said, Behold, thy son Joseph coming to thee. And Israel strengthened himself and sat upon the bed. Jacob was told that Joseph was on his way, and when Jacob realized Joseph had arrived, he summoned enough strength to sit up. And, I'm assuming a lot, but regards how bad I feel, when my kids come around, I do what? I kind of perk up a little bit. I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm thinking, Joseph, Jacob, is Joseph, hit those vines, it kind of gives him a little more strength to sit up and visit with him.
We do that to our children, because
So,
we do that with our children.
that's right.
It's hurting granddaddy and everybody else in the house.
Thinking about my mother, she's kind of been on the weather here a bit. And she's better. But every time we come in, her kids, she kind of perks up a little bit. It does make a difference. All right, verse 3 and 4. And Jacob said unto Joseph, God Almighty appeared unto me at Luz in the land of Canaan and blessed me, and said unto me, Behold, I will make thee fruitful, multiply thee, and I will make of thee a multitude of people, and will give this land to thy seed after thee for everlasting possession. Now Jacob remembered. Jacob reminded Joseph the appearance of God to him at Luz, which he renamed Bethel. And God there extended the seed and land promise to him. Well, I think one of the reasons that he called Joseph, he just wanted to make sure that he understood, that he would be carrying on the, I'm going to say tradition, but he would be carrying on the promise. And he wanted to make sure that he understood what obligation that he had. All right, we're going to finish up with verse 5 here. And I don't know who's, I think Luke's going to be teaching next week. So now, thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born unto thee in the land of Egypt before I came to thee into Egypt, are mine, as Reuben and Simeon, they shall be mine. Well, as Brother John said earlier, Jacob thought of these two, Ephraim and Manasseh, as his own sons. So he really adopted them. Just like he said, Reuben and Simeon was his own. Stop there. Alan should be here in a few minutes, if he's not already here. So, our Father, again, we come to you, thanking you for this time together. We ask that you continue to bless us. We ask that you continue to guide us, strengthen us, and watch over us. We thank that in Jesus' name. Amen.